If I was going to put my 2 cents in, hilariously enough, I also will be talking about Powered by the Apocalypse.
Shit.
With Monster Hearts. I think Monster Hearts handles
You can die in Monster Hearts?
Yeah.
I didn't know you could.
Yeah, you can. They talk about it. I haven't read the rules in a while, but
I assumed it was like Masks.
No, you can like die. They very specifically talk about like a really dramatic way to end an arc is for like a character who's resolved their part to like, walk out, get shot by a mystery villain, and then die in the street. And you're like,
Okay.
Yeah. So the basically, if you don't know, and to those of you who don't know, Monster Hearts is a game a game in which you play as a
Horny vampires.
a horny monster in a high school or college. And the whole point of the game is to sort of explore your psychology and the fact that you are just different than everybody else and are putting up a mask, if you will, to try to hide in civilized, or not really civilized, but normal society.
Mm-hmm.
It was made by, it is a very thinly veiled trans allegory, and a very good one at that. The creator is trans, and it's just a really cool game that I would recommend supporting because it's really fun. Or not, if I haven't played it, it's not fun, but it looks really fun.
It's also,
and I want to play it really bad.
It's also a well-designed Powered by the Apocalypse hack. Because who baby, are there lots of shit ones?
True. And yeah, just the way that they handle death is really interesting because you can play, for example, as a ghost, and they specifically say, well, you just can't die because you're a ghost. You're already dead. Yeah. But one of the things it recommends is like, if you like your death can come from resolving the source of what kills you, or like finding your killer and bringing them to justice, or coming to peace with something before you died, like losing your regrets, and then you pass on, right? But like that's the only way you can die. And they talk about how the ghosts, basically one of the things that the ghost is sort of there to do is die eventually.
Right.
So the fact that you can't be killed is like a punishment.
Right.
The ghoul, the whole thing with the ghoul is that no matter what you do, no matter how many times you die, you always resurrect, but you come back less of a person than you were. And the ghoul is like to the fucking weebs out there. You like crave human flesh. You look like a normal person, but you've got like super strength and you don't feel pain and all that stuff.
The ghoul is very Tokyo-esque, if you will.
Yeah. But yeah, you can die.
I don't like the way you said that.
Look, I was trying to go past it, but
nope.
I was trying to let it go past without saying anything.
I refuse. You fucked us both, Sam. Yeah, the cool thing about the ghoul, like I said, you can't die. Unless, I think it says the only way you can die is if you are like obliterated. Like if you get blown up in an explosion, then you can die because there's nothing left to like regenerate.
Classic.
But they also mention that that's very unlikely.
Yeah. Given the setting.
There are some other interesting ones, like vampire. It says you can be killed, but it's very difficult unless it's sunlight. I think even a stake to the heart is like the typical vampire, like
you're stunned.
You just become stunned. Yeah.
Wouldn't yield stasis.
Yeah. So yeah,
not at all, boy.
Yeah, I just really like the way that the game specifically treats death at times like the goal.
Yeah.
Right? Like finding peace or whatever you want to call it, and like living is the punishment.
Well, and also the fact that it has sort of specialized I don't know if they're necessarily rules, but at the very least specialized statements about how each of the various types of monsters would handle death.
True.
That's very in line with the fiction in question.
I did. So I made my character for Monster Hearts because I was going to be in a game that just never really ended up going anywhere for no real reason. It just like, we're going to start this day. And then like a week before it was like, okay, guys, we're going to push it back a little while. And then a little while became forever.
Silence. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really bizarre. Yep. But I remember like my character was it was Nico from Vampire the Masquerade, like pretty much the same backstory and everything. For reference, Nico is like in Vampire the Masquerade, it's like a non-binary nightclub owner. Huh?
Toreador?
Oh yeah. Right? Like a non-binary nightclub owner who's a Toreador, and his whole thing is he wants to make like a safe haven for the vampires in the nightclub, and I think it takes place in Chicago.
Yep.
Yeah, Nico's basically the same, except you swapped out vampire for ghost, and is in like a 19-year-old kid in high school, or 18-year-old kid in high school. And his whole thing was he had to find out who moited him, because he got moited in the street, and then one of the other players was a witch and took a lock of his hair for a spell, and that's one of the things anchoring him to the place, and the witch character was like, nope, not giving you this hair.
Does it have Apocalypse World style preemptive session 0 questions for each characters?
Yes, it's very in-depth. So like every character, I think they're called strings or ties or something. I can't. Right. And each character has a number of these things that you can hold over other characters, and you can trade them in for things. Yeah. So
it's history from Apocalypse World.
Yeah, and the witch specifically is really cool because you can use them as part of your spells. So it's like, you're oath bound to me. I have control over you for like one command or something. It's also interesting because in Monster Hearts you can like monster out if you experience too much stress.
Yeah. You go fucking blood rage.
yeah. The ghost one is cool because your physical body dissipates and everything in the room just goes to shit. Like things get thrown,
you
people
turn
get
into a
smashed
poltergeist?
around. Yeah.
Nice.
And the only way you can come out of it is if someone can talk you down, or you can make a really, really difficult roll to roll cool and like calm down.
Nice.
I really want to play Monster Hearts. Fuck, that game is so cool.
Now you're making me want to play Monster Hearts.
Yeah. There's a spin-off, not really, but kind of. It's the Fooly Cooly tabletop that I also want to play. That handles. It's not death because they specifically say, you're playing like 11 to 14-year-olds in an otherwise normal town. You don't die typically, but your character, like, the whole thing with Fooly Cooly and Never Knows Best is that your character is like striking out against the establishment that they believe to be oppressing them or trying to change them as they figure out who they are as they grow up. So by dying, you don't die, you just sort of accept and fade in with the crowd, and you're like, oh, that's like more real than I like.
Side note, I didn't realize the person who made Monster Hearts is the same person who made The Quiet Year, so they get banger points in my book.
What's The Quiet Year?
The Quiet Year is a GM-less. It's sort of it's a role-playing game, but not in the traditional sense. So everyone sort of has you're building up a community based on a bunch of prompts from you draw from a standard deck, and there's prompts related to the deck, and you go through the various seasons and you keep adding stuff to the community, and each of the players is sort of adding their little tidbits from the prompts you're getting, and it's sort of like a building. It's more like a Fiasco or a Paranoia type thing where you're like building up like a world or a setting together. And a lot of people use The Quiet Year actually as a preemptive session 0 game to their Apocalypse World game, because you build up the little crazy community and then they play in it.
Oh, that's fucking cool. I like that.
Yeah, The Quiet Year's. I played it like once, but it's very good.
Oh, I will throw in one extra one as an honorable mention for how death is handled in the